Welcome to the church chat.
Welcome to the church chat, where we
Glad
chat at church.
Where we chat about church. That's what we do here. So,
Mm-hmm.
welcome. How are y'all doing? Glad to have you here.
It's a beautiful day out, I think. What is the weather like out? There aren't windows.
There are not windows in here, but the advantage is we don't have to set up like barriers
That
to
is
keep out
true.
the light.
Uh-huh.
So,
Remember those barriers?
those barriers.
Yep.
Those were
Those were always in our way.
yes. Well, so we had to. There was like these trifold wicker things. that
They're
we-
going to be
and-
third-class relics one day. Of whom I'm not sure.
Yeah. So, but we, I mean, as much we did enjoy doing fireside chat, but we also enjoyed the Friday after chats.
When you could just put everything
Away for the weekend. It was kind of
true.
nice
Mm-hmm.
because we could have our living room back. So that was nice.
Mm-hmm.
And we've rearranged our living room since the fireside chat.
It looks
days.
very nice.
It does. Yeah. It's cozy.
Mm-hmm.
So that was I think it was John's idea.
It was, and John did it all, I think. I just came home one day and it was...
Well, he did not do it all because I did part of it.
Oh, I didn't
we did
realize
together.
that.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Sorry.
Yeah.
My bad.
It's all right. Well, it would have been a little tricky to move the couch and
Yeah.
stuff. So, yeah, we were working on that together. I think you were out of town or something. But
Okay, yeah, because I came back and there it was. I
and there it
remember.
was. Yep. So, how y'all doing today for the church chat? Do you have any questions? I put in the thing there. If you have any things that you'd like for us to talk about or address. Hey, today is I need to go find a Kleenex. But today is while I go find a Kleenex, I will put this little graphic up.
St.
which I had
Teresa
up.
of Avila.
Do you know they had that up throughout the entire mass?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. So it was a little like welcome, and then there's a little picture of
Oh,
Saint.
I talked about it during the homily.
I
today, too.
figured you probably would,
Yeah,
so
hey,
I thought I
what?
would. So I'm gonna go. There's
It's
no
one of my
Kleenex
favorites.
here. So talk about Saint Teresa, and I'll be right back.
Well,
Not to
today...
be confused with Therese of Lisieux.
Right. So we talked about Thérèse of Lisieux a little while ago. And Thérèse of
Okay.
Lisieux was a Carmelite nun from France in the late 1800s, early 1900s. I'm not exactly sure what year she died, but right around there. She was right around that time. And she was a lovely saint. She was a Discarce Carmelite. But today we aren't celebrating Thérèse of Lisieux. We're celebrating Teresa de Avila, Teresa of Avila, who was a Spanish nun, a Spanish Carmelite nun, who started the Discalced Carmelites. So the Discalced Carmelites were a reformed Carmelites during her time. Discalced essentially means without shoes. It's kind of a loose translation. But they were without shoes, without socks, because they were living a far more penitential life. And she reformed the monasteries of Carmelites to basically come to their original vigor. And to this day, we still have people who are Discalced Carmelites throughout the whole world. She's one of my favorite saints. I love her dearly.
Yep.
I know her well. I told everybody at the homily today that I lived at her monastery, El Monasterio de la Encarnación, for 6 weeks. That's how you pronounce it. That's the name of it. So,
So Spaniel.
well,
Spanish.
that's not how you. It's Espanol, and people don't understand accents. It's very upsetting.
It just sounds so funny.
Mhm.
I'm afraid.
It's not true. But if you read her poetry, you got to read it with her Castilian accent. It's Nada te turbe, nada
Not a turbe.
nada te turbe.
Not a turbe.
But she's got beautiful poetry. Her life is just incredible, and I have a great devotion to her. So.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I love her too. She
Mhm.
is great. We so
She's doctor of the church too.
She is doctor of the church. So I will put up another
she-
graphic.
Was she the first female doctor of the church?
I do not know that trivia.
I think she might have been the first female doctor of the church. Mhm.
That's possible. I mean, she's great. So I put up this graphic for Tuesday Night Live here because this is not Tuesday Night Live. Don't be confused.
Nope.
But we did talk.
It is not Tuesday night, but it is
not.
live.
It's true.
And I am not Michael Sharon.
No, not. So I am putting up that graphic for just a moment because we are talking about the saints. And so if you missed our episode on Tuesday, this past Tuesday, we talked about Therese of Lisieux. And then next Tuesday, we're talking about Teresa of Avila. So our funnel that we're talking about saints this year. That's going to be our theme for the season 3. And we are talking about the saints, and our funnel is that we have to pick from the saints of the month. And October is chock full of great saints. So this week we talked about Therese of Lisieux. Next week we're talking about Teresa of Avila, and then the following week is St. John Paul II. So, bam, bam, bam.
Pretty good
3,
saints.
Yes. Is John Paul II a doctor of the church?
No. He might be, but the problem with John Paul II's writings is that really his most profound writings are actually written by Ratzinger. With most of the church documents under him. So John Paul II wrote Redemptoris Hominis, then he wrote the next couple, and then from that point on, most of the writings were actually, most of the church documents were very Ratzingerian.
Huh.
Because he was the prefect of the CDF.
Right.
And so I actually think Ratzinger is going to become more of a doctor, quote unquote, of the church before John Paul, because the most important writings were actually very influenced by Ratzinger.
I thought Theology of the Body was kind of...
Oh, that's totally JP2. But that's very early. We're talking like everything from 87, 88 on.
Well, sure, but it's not as early as Saint Therese of Lisieux.
Well, yeah, but so he could be a doctor of the church one day. I don't know. Yeah.
They could be the both.
It could be both of them, absolutely.
So, Theology of the Body, that's kind of... that's a major shift in theology, isn't it?
It depends on who you talk to.
Okay.
I don't think so as much.
Okay.
But a lot of people do think it. So, I think Theology of the Body is very, very good. I'm not denying it or anything of that sort. But I think John Paul II, what's unique about it is not necessarily the theological elements, or it's more the philosophical elements of Theology of the Body. Because he does a lot of phenomenology.
Yes. And
that's what's unique about Theology of the Body compared to other ones. So, this is a hot take from Father Ashmore.
Hot take. I need to put a new graphic on. Hot take.
Hot take.
Let's see if I can get a hot take.
Mm-hmm. I actually think that John Paul II's The Love and Responsibility, his book that he wrote as a bishop, is much better than Theology of the Body, personally. I find Theology of the Body hard to work through, and at times a little... I don't know. I just don't find it that enjoyable to read, and I don't think it's...
It is kind of tedious. I think that the
format of it makes it so.
Sure, because there are a series of Wednesday audiences, especially at first. But I think that the second step of Theology of the Body, I think, is where it's at. Like, you take Christopher West, you take some of these, or these later writings, or the Love and Responsibility, not the Theology of the Body, the original texts themselves, but the groundwork that they set up for a different way of thinking about who we are as human beings and that phenomenology stuff.
Exactly. And that's what he does in Love and Responsibility, which he wrote as a bishop, the Bishop of Krakow. Archbishop of Krakow at that point, I think. Although I could be wrong. Anyways, Love and Responsibility is a beautiful philosophical text about the human body, about sexual intimacy, that sort of thing. And he basically takes Love and Responsibility, and then he develops some of the themes in it. He provides a little more theology, and then he breaks it up into lots of different sections for Theology of the Body. So that's why I prefer just going with Love and Responsibility. I think it's profound on its own. So.
That's fair. Mm-hmm. I'll keep that in mind as we prepare for our talking about JP2.
Mm-hmm. But people are totally open to disagreeing with me on that. So some people agree,
let's get it going in the chat. Are you watching the YouTube?
I am not yet. Nope.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Are you watching ourselves? So yeah, very good. So tune in for Tuesday Night Live for those discussions of the saints. Father Ashmore's asking what this red thing is. I'm pretty excited about this red thing. This is the new audio interface. Isn't that exciting?
There we go.
We are live.
Sound off.
So this is the current one that we are using. This Focusrite Sapphire 6. Mm-hmm. It's big. It's heavy. This thing, when it came in the mail, I'm like, did they send me the wrong thing? I was really concerned because it's so tiny. It's so cute. But it's an upgrade, because this one I bought years ago. I used to do a bunch of music demos when I was recording. I'm not recording really much anymore, but I needed this to input vocals and guitar and anything into the computer, so then I could
didgeridoo. That's
didgeridoo, exactly. Mm-hmm. So I bought this years ago. This is the most recommended, and but it's outdated. And I think that if my computer updates again, it will automatically say this doesn't work anymore, because it doesn't do what's it?
Well, in Catalina, macOS Catalina, they killed 32-bit, and they only are 64-bit now, and I believe that is only compatible with 32-bit software.
So there you go. So I think
Hence why it won't work with my computer.
right. So
I've also got a little tiny computer that's really old at this point, and it doesn't. It's at the end of its life. So I'm eagerly waiting for Apple to put out their new computers this year. So because they're doing a whole shift of things. So I don't want to buy a new computer until they shift everything to their new processors. So I'm eagerly awaiting because that thing it's just chugging along every day. It reminds me how old it is. It's like a bad knee.
So
It's like a bad knee or something.
Yeah, well, this computer is new. It's not even a year old yet. I'm so glad I got it, though. My other computer exploded? Not really exploded, but...
Imploded?
It, last October, I think right as I was getting back from the Holy Land, it just didn't wake up anymore. It died in its sleep,
It died in its sleep, yeah. That is sad.
It was.
I remember thinking that maybe you went a little overkill, but you did not at all.
I did not. Well, because this was...
and I wasn't being critical. I was like, oh, that's a pretty big computer. I wonder if you will ever really need that. It's just kind of a thought that went through my head, and we absolutely did.
Well, yes, because I was it's not cheap. It was cheaper for me to get a desktop and an iPad, and that's what I was thinking about doing, or even a desktop and I think an iPad or an iBook Air or something or whatever.
And we had been talking about that. And I actually thought it would have been a good idea initially.
Right, but thank God I didn't do that because who knew we would be doing live streaming every day, and this is what runs it, is this major processor. But I talked about getting a desktop. Can you imagine like lugging that thing around from spot to spot?
It's possible. We'd have to get it in a little bag. Maybe put a little Apple symbol on the outside.
So I'm very grateful
With
that I
love
got this
from the
computer.
rectory.
But it's been a workhorse. It's been doing a lot of work. So I just have to keep on upgrading so we can stay up to date and keep delivering this kind of enjoy whatever content this is that we are doing.
Whatever it is.
So how are y'all doing? What are your questions? Hey, let me go to my spot. I haven't seen from my sister yet, but she usually sends me a little text saying church chat. But I will send her a little note here, and as I usually do. So let me go to the camera, and here we go. Camera. Hello there, everybody. Hello there, Rachel and Rosalie and Laura and Thomas. I hope that you're having a great day. It was fun to see, Rachel, the pictures of you playing the Three Little Pigs game. So I hope that was fun. I hope that I get to play it with you sometime soon. So hope that was a lot of fun. It's getting colder now. It's not as good for swinging weather, but
disconcerting.
Yeah, it is. But when I go back to the camera, because it's something very exciting for Father Ashmore.
What is?
And hello to the Dryland girls. So hope that you are having a good day, and I hope that school is going very well. So shout outs. There are my shout outs for the day. And now we'll go back to the regular camera. Come on now, you know what's exciting.
What's exciting for me?
It was very exciting this morning, and it's going to get even more exciting tomorrow. Even though you are not manifesting it. Come on now, type in the chat. You know, he's a little slow. He's a little slow on the upchuck today here. What is he so excited about?
Oh, sweater weather.
It's sweater weather.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, I honestly was blank. I don't know what you're getting.
So I was talking about how it was warmer yesterday and now it's colder, which means, of course, that it is sweater weather. I have pullover weather, whatever this thing is.
I need to get a sweater that goes over the cassock. It's all my sweaters are just too small for that. I need to get a bigger sweater for that. A cassock sweater, a sweater.
Sweatock.
Sweatock. Yeah, that sounds bad, huh?
Yes, there it is. Carly knew the answer. Very good.
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening.
50 points to you, Carly.
I wasn't listening. And Father Ken's like, well, it's very exciting for Father Ashton. I'm like, what have I done?
Yeah, he kind of tunes out when I go onto the camera.
I really do. I find other things, think about what we're going to say. That's right.
Well, I had something exciting happen to me yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I got a package.
Does it have records in it?
It does not have records
looks like
in it.
it's a record.
It does look like it could be a record. So
Does it have...
I got this package here in the mail yesterday. So yesterday, I went out for a walk and did my rosary. I don't often do a walking rosary, but yesterday, since I knew it was getting colder, I thought, I'm going to go do my walking rosary thing. I usually do the rosary. I don't always walk when I do the rosary, but I thought, and Father Ashmore does that quite a bit. But
almost every day. I like it. It's a nice time to pray, walk around the community, pray for our neighbors.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I still don't do it too frequently, but I did it yesterday. So I was walking around, did my rosary. I did the School of Faith, Holy Family School of Faith rosary, which was on the one I did yesterday. Sometimes it doesn't upload in the Spotify, and so, but I was alerted that I could also do it in the Apple Podcasts. So I did resentment and gratitude. Anyway, so
I thought you were saying you were resentful. No, okay. And then you were grateful.
So I was walking back into the house, and I see this package out here from Amazon Prime. I'm like, what did I order from Amazon Prime?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because I had ordered some books.
Don't know. I haven't seen this before.
And I did get this. I know. I saved it for you. And I got this Focusrite from Amazon. But I couldn't figure it out. Furthermore, it has, I don't usually ship things to the house. I usually ship things here.
Yeah.
So this has the rectory address on here. I'm so like, what is going on? So.
Are those comic books?
They are comic books.
Why are they comic books?
They are my long lost Star Wars comic books.
Who sent these to you?
This was a friend of mine from middle school, high school, and college. Kaya is her name. And I've been wondering what happened to these. These are like comic books from like high school and college. I was never been a big comic book reader, but I do like Star Wars. And there were these issues of Star Wars Dark Empire that came out in the early mid 90s. And she sent me a note saying, hey, imagine my surprise when I was cleaning out a box that obviously has not been touched for 20 years. And here they are. They're back. I've been wondering what happened to these. But now they're back. So it was the funniest thing to open because it does not say who it's from. I was just staring at it for a while. What could this possibly be? But anyway, so if you are cleaning out your houses during this pandemic time, here's a lesson, I suppose. You might discover some things that don't belong to you or that were loaned to you years ago. Surprise your friend, your old friend, by sending them the package back with a note saying, hey, look what I found. So I had completely forgotten where these had gone. I had lent them to it. The other thing is
interesting.
Yeah. This is my friend that we went to the Midland Theater, because the Midland Theater right here, that's the B&B, was legendary in Lawrence as the best theater in the area. Okay. So we drove actually to...
It's a pretty nice theater.
It is a nice theater, still nice. But we drove from KU to Midland when they were doing the re-releases of the Star Wars movies. Okay. And so that's probably where that came up. It's like, oh, you got to read these Star Wars movies, Star Wars comic books. And this is where, I know this is high nerd, but it's also just kind of fun. This is where I was always defending, probably why I gave it to Kaya was, look, Boba Fett is alive, according to this comic book, that he appears and he says, the Sarlacc found me somewhat indigestible, Solo. So I say that also in reference because The Mandalorian Season 2 is coming up.
Oh, when is that being released?
I think it's October 30th or something.
That's exciting.
And so, and I think that Boba Fett is supposed to be in the Mandalorian. So they're probably going to have to explain how he survived from when he fell down.
He was on indigestible.
Indigestible. So anyway, I just thought I would share that little... It was a fun trip down memory lane. Again, I haven't seen these things for 20 years, but they just showed up. They were sitting at my in front of the house. last night.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Utterly fascinating.
It is. I thought so. I thought it was worth sharing on this show.
Yeah.
'Cause,
I didn't know they made Star Wars comic books.
Yeah. Well, this was a big deal back in the day because back in the day there was
When I was a kid.
When I was a kid, get off
we,
my lawn.
we didn't have any of these Netflixes or
I know.
Amazons.
Well, there was not a whole lot of Star Wars content. In fact, from Return of the Jedi until these what were those called, the Thrawn series, there was nothing for about 5 or 6 years. There was no books. There was nothing.
There are no books?
No, nothing.
Really? When were all the books published?
From about 1992 or so. Heir to the Empire, I think, is the name of that series by Timothy Zahn.
Okay. Yeah, I read some of those when I was 12, but I don't.
Okay.
I haven't read them since I was 12 or 13.
But as a young Star Wars fan, that was really exciting to get new content. And so these comic books were also, because, I mean, George Lucas was very, I think, if my memory serves, very wary about licensing any of that stuff, telling more stories or whatever. The story was done at Return of the Jedi. He wasn't doing anything more with that. He didn't want to get in the way of other things. So the books were very rare and the comics were very rare. So these Dark Horse comics, now there are probably a million of them. I don't keep up with this at all anymore. But back in the day, there were so few that I could keep up with them. And I basically read all the Star Wars books as they came out. But now there's no way I could do that. But
right. So Brad, you're right. Most of the extended universe was tossed when Disney canonized the storyline prior to Episode 7. But what they did is they made it into the Star Wars Legends.
Right.
So they are they're not canon, but Disney often pulls from the Star Wars Legends for the canon. So it wouldn't surprise me at all to see them pull that in order to build a new story.
Right.
It's just everything that is the actual canon is much, much smaller. Now they're legends, quote unquote, and they pull from them very often.
We've gone high nerd in this episode.
I'm sorry.
No, that's good. But that what's canon and what's not, and what's the real story or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, I get it, because if you're trying to tell a story fresh with Episode 7, it's like, how do you even stay up to date with all these books and the twins of Leia and Han, and what do you do with that? And
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, but yes, so the Boba Fett returning has been suppressed, but I hear that he is in the new Mandalorian. So anyway, but I used to defend back before Episode 7. No, Boba Fett. He's my favorite Star Wars character. Boba Fett is alive, and I've got proof. But I didn't have proof because I didn't have my comic books. But now Kaya has sent them back to me, and so now
all is right in the universe.
all is right in the universe.
And you thought 2020 would only bring bad.
So if you've got things in this weird year of 2020 that have been that you have had in your possession for a long time, go ahead and send them back. You'll make someone's day, because that certainly made my day last night when I had this random package from Kaya. So thanks, Kaya, for sending that back to me, and it's good to have them back. I never expected to see these again, so
That's sweet. Very cool.
yeah. So that's my share for the day.
My share for the day
Yes,
is
please.
I am continuing work on Theology Talk with Father Ashmore.
Oh yes,
I've got
I've seen
two
little.
I've edited it and I've changed a few things here and there. It's still work in progress. I plan to finish 4 or 5 of them before I start releasing them, and so it'll still be a few weeks before that. But I've got about 2 done. I might have to do some re-recording of my second episode, but I can share a little bit of a teaser of the music. So 1 second. Let's see. So if you're wondering, if you're just waiting with bated breath for the series,
They are.
you can, let's see what we can do here. We have the theme song here. So there's a little teaser of the theme song that is to come for the show. So, stop it, bad.
It's very exciting. Yeah,
Mhm.
and I've seen a little bit of it, and I think it's going to be great. I'm so glad that you're doing that, and I think it'll be a great addition to the Good Shepherd pandemic
Extended
output
universe.
Good Shepherd extended universe. Very good. So yeah, we've got. I mean, we're trying to do all kinds of things to make sure that we continue to build community.
Yep.
I was just watching a YouTube video last night. It's by a guy who's a recently ordained monk, I believe.
Oh.
Breaking in the Habit. I don't know if you've seen
Oh
that
yeah,
guy.
yeah. He's a friar. He's,
Yeah.
mhm.
He's good.
Yeah, he's fine. Mhm.
But anyway, he was mentioning how things are not going back. We are longing for those days when it's going to go back to normal.
Mhm.
And his basic premise is, I don't really care how it used to be, because how is it now? So we might lament, oh, we didn't have Fall Festival like we used to, or we didn't do this like we used to, or in normal times we used to do this. And his basic point was, what are we doing now? How are we being church now? And that's the question to be asking. And so we're trying to respond to that and
Mhm.
trying to be church now, trying to do the Bible studies, trying to do the theology talks, trying to do these chats.
Mhm.
Because that's the reality that we are in. We don't live in the past, and we
Mhm.
never have.
It's true. Never have.
So we only got the present.
Mhm.
So
So this will be released via YouTube, via Facebook, and I'll also be doing a podcast of it. So
Cool.
and it won't be video on podcast. That's complicated. I don't know how to do that.
do you have any other podcasts that you're working on?
Yes, but that's a very small crowd. Why'd you make me walk into that? No.
Can you play a little excerpt of that?
I don't think I can actually. I don't think I have it on my phone. I don't think. Well, let me look, but I don't think I do.
I thought you played something from your phone last time.
Yeah, but it was coming from my computer.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Mm. So
So there is the secret podcast. I
well, it's
mean,
not secret. It's got a very small listener.
You thought we were nerdy before.
Okay, so as many people know, as many people know, I enjoy the Latin language, and one good way of keeping up on Latin and making sure that you are learning continuously, along with getting a good ear for the language, is to read certain readings aloud and then try to listen to them again, so that you're basically reinforcing the words and whatnot. And one of the greatest writers was Leo the Great Pope, and so I am starting. If I have one podcast going, I might as well have another podcast
Sure,
and share
you
my joy with other
you might as
people.
well go for more.
So I am releasing a new podcast. Right now, it doesn't have too fancy of a name. It's just Leonis Magni Sermones, which are the sermons of Leo the Great. And I'm reading the sermons of Leo the Great in Latin. And those who wish, which are like 3 people in the universe, can listen to me read his sermons aloud. And they will be delivered to your phone weekly.
I just think it's great.
I wasn't really going to make a big deal about it.
I know,
so.
but I forced you. But I think so. We're hoping that there can be kind of a fun play of these two, or I'm hoping anyway. There can be a fun play between these two podcasts, and in my other podcast,
which I'm sure you are all listening to, Leonis Magni Sermones.
What was your opening? Do you remember what the opening was?
What was in Latin?
Yeah. What did you like? Hello, everybody, or whatever.
Oh, I say something along the lines of Salvete discipuli Jesu Christi, nomen meus Pater Ashmore est, et sacerdos ecclesia catholicae sum. Intra podcastum nostrum, sermones Leonis Magni ascoltamus. And then I end up saying a couple other things, but what I say there is, hello all disciples of Jesus Christ. My name is Father Ashmore, and I am a priest of the Roman Catholic Church. In this podcast, we listen to the homilies of Leo the Great.
I love it. I think it's completely nerdy. It's the Nietzscheest thing of all Nietzscheest things I've ever heard in my life.
Well, there's really not. I know this sounds so absurd. There's really not enough Latin content out there for guys like me,
right?
Because there are some, but not enough. So might as well make it.
I love it. I think it's great. I mean, that's one of the beauties of this world is if you want it, it's out there, or you can make it yourself. So
it's true. That is absolutely true.
That is a very niche market.
All 3 people are going to listen to
that's
it.
Right. Want to listen to. Gregory the Great's sermons read aloud
Leo
to
the Great.
Leo the Great. What is it?
Gregory the Great's would be good too.
Oh yeah,
but-
Leo the Great's sermons.
I
in
have
the
why I
original
chose
language.
Leo the Great is I actually have a website that has a lot of these online, so it can be hard to find old Latin text sometimes because you either have to buy them or find them online, but you aren't sure if they're a good critical edition. And so I found
Sure.
a good source of his homilies that I think I can use that seem like a good edition of them.
Yeah.
So, mm-hmm.
That's great. Very good.
Mm-hmm.
I am not reading Latin, but I did finally start. We were watching back in deep pandemic. I introduced Father Ashmore to the Hunger Games series,
Oh,
and
yeah,
there is a new book that we have been passing. My family's been passing around, called "The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes," which is a prequel set at the 10th Hunger Games.
Yeah. How is that going? You were telling me you were excited for that.
Yes, I'm excited. So I finished the other book. What was I reading? By Avi, the Charlotte, whatever it was. It's one of the 5th grade teachers lent it to me. What is that? I don't remember the name of it. Anyway, I finished that one, and so I started into, and it was good. It was good. But this is the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and I think it is. I mean, I'm only like 30, 40 pages into it, maybe 50. A few chapters in. And it's, I think what's going to be telling the story of is how the Hunger Games became the Hunger Games.
Oh, okay.
Because in the 10th Hunger Games,
Mm-hmm.
it's very, they hadn't developed all the stuff yet. They just, they bring the tributes, they select the tributes, they bring them in cages, they send them into the arena, and they fight to the death or whatever, and there's a winner. So it seems like, I'm not spoiling too much because I'm not very far into it, it seems like they're trying to develop how do we make this a compelling and a show.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it does also talk about kind of, it's a little bit sympathetic also to how it became, it seems like it's going to kind of lay the groundwork of how the capital became the capital.
Oh, wow.
Because currently the capital is really, it's struggling from the ravages of the war. So there's a lot of poverty, there's a lot of difficulty, and so it's going to be kind of interesting to see how did the capital become the capital, or what's the groundwork. I don't know how far the book's going to go, but both my sisters devoured it, I think, and my brother-in-law loved it, and so I think Suzanne Collins is a great writer, and I think she's really fascinating. So if you're wanting to read it, I'll
No, I'm good for now, but thank you.
move it on. But, so anyway, that's what I have started reading in my free time. I'm still doing, of course, the Bible study. When I'm done with Ballad, let me know what your final recommendation. I will let you know. So, but so far so good. I think it's a fascinating series and very interesting. And it's in English. It's not in Latin. But the Latin edition is, I think, it's coming out next.
It's coming forthcoming. Yeah. I'm not going to translate that.
Very good.
I tried to read that in Spanish just for fun.
Right.
I didn't find it that compelling in Spanish. I think it's one of those that might need to be read in English.
Maybe.
Because and it could be that I'm just totally wrong about that too. Because I maybe should go back to it again. But I think one of the things about English particularly is that it can, especially when it comes to that first-person perspective, it can be a lot snappier than Spanish can be.
Oh, I see. Interesting.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
And so I didn't find the translation to be bad, but when I read the English versus the Spanish, I found the English a little more compelling. Whereas sometimes when I read the Spanish versus the English with something written in Spanish, I find the Spanish more compelling. But I think English tends to be a bit of a snappier language.
Right. Yes.
I don't know about that though. I could be totally wrong. Somebody could know far more about the translation than I. So.
And this is not in first person. This is in third person.
Oh, interesting. That's very different then.
So it's a different story. Maniac McGee. I don't know what that means.
Maniac McGee?
It was reference to something or other.
I don't see it. Interesting.
Yeah. All right. Is that something you're reading? I don't know.
Was that your nickname in high school?
I don't know what that means. So, any other tidbits? Any other things that are happening or going on? Or
No, actually, this week has been. Oh, one thing, I took a day of recollection on Tuesday.
Oh yes.
So I have a priest prayer group,
Yep.
and we're trying to provide more spiritual opportunities for each other, make it so that we have more spiritual friendship, and so just supporting each other in the spiritual life. I'm not making it too complicated, but to do that, we're going to be doing days of recollection occasionally, maybe 3 or 4 times a year. So we went down to Wichita to the Spiritual Life Center, and we stayed the night. We entered into silence about 7 or 8. We left silence about 4 o'clock. We prayed evening prayer. We talked about a retreat together, and then we had dinner and we left. And it was a lovely, lovely day.
Wonderful.
So if everybody's looking to get away, I would highly suggest going down to the Spiritual Life Center in Wichita. It was a very beautiful campus. It's a very prayerful place, and I found it to be very spiritually rejuvenating. And it's nice because I'll be taking my long retreat in 3 or 4 weeks.
Mhm.
So it was actually good for me to take a little mini retreat beforehand to get myself prepared for that.
Or
Because it can be hard to
yeah.
adjust when you've been living the craziness of daily life. Sometimes you need 2 or 3 days just to get into the mind frame of a retreat.
True that. Yeah, my retreat that I took, last month, whatever that was,
Mhm.
it was good, but it is. I mean, it's short, but
Yeah,
No,
I was thinking about that. This is a 5-day retreat. I think I should probably make my next one an 8-day retreat. I'm
the
thinking.
trouble, though, of course, is then it runs into a weekend. So
Exactly.
5 days are good. So I try to do kind of a mix.
Mhm.
Sometimes I take a weekend, sometimes I don't. More often than not, I do not take a weekend. It's sometimes tough, to do that self-care and to do prayer and everything. We get so focused on serving and everything. Well, I can't miss a weekend for that or whatever. I really don't like. I don't like missing
Yeah.
weekends just for missing
Whatever.
a weekend, right?
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
I'm like Marriage Encounter. That's a great thing. It's a great
Mhm.
ministry. My parents were very involved in Marriage Encounter.
But they
and-
want you there the whole time.
What?
Right? Don't they want you there the whole
Right.
time?
So if you're the priest for Marriage Encounter, you basically have to take a weekend off
Mhm.
to go do the Marriage Encounter weekend.
And then you have the difficulty of finding priests, which is sometimes not hard, but sometimes can be very difficult. And
So I just don't like being away from the parish in those key moments. Because then, it's funny. Like if you're gone for you can miss the priest for a month,
Mhm.
right? Because if I take a weekend off, then usually what it is, how our current thing works. How's that work? Do I miss 3 weeks or something? Because let's say if I take the weekend off, I'm
2
supposed to have the
weeks.
10 o'clock
Yeah.
mass.
Mhm.
Then I won't have it the next weekend, and I would not have had it the weekend before that.
Yeah, true. And so it could be upwards of 3 weeks.
Right.
Mhm. And then other people may be going to other masses. So
Right.
I've heard people say things. Well, I haven't seen you in 6 weeks, Father. Where you been? I'm like,
I have not gone anywhere.
I have been here.
So yes, it's hard for me to miss a weekend for most reasons, but yeah.
That can be hard.
Right.
Mhm.
And there was a offering for some sort of little vacation kind of thing, and it was on a it's good for most people, it was a Friday through a Sunday or something,
Mhm.
and I'm like, if
Yeah.
I'm gonna miss a weekend, I'd like to have
Yeah, the whole
part of the week,
absolutely. Mhm.
and rather than the weekend, because
Mhm.
it seems a little silly just to be gone for 3 days of
A weekend. Yeah.
my key days,
No, that wouldn't work very well.
so.
So I'll be going on retreat the second week of November.
And are
I'll
you
be
saying where you're
leaving-
going?
Yeah, I'm going to Clear Creek Monastery in Oklahoma.
Oh yeah.
So it's a great, really beautiful monastery there. They hold to the Benedictine rule very strictly down there. So it's a very austere community, but they are very welcoming to guests, and I really love it down
that's
there.
very Benedictine, isn't it? That's the whole
Exactly.
thing.
Mhm. And so I'll be leaving Sunday afternoon, and I'll be coming back Friday afternoon, I believe is how it is. So that'll be 5 nights, and it will be a good size retreat. Are my retreats typically individually, guided with a group? Generally, I do, even though if I'm with a group, it will be a very individual retreat. That would be my general pattern. So that in the school that I went to, sorry, I'm graduating my thoughts. figuring out. And the schools that I went to, the individual retreat was very highly emphasized, especially more of what might be called a more of an Ignatian style retreat, where you do 3 to 4 holy hours every day. And so because of that, I just tend to go, when I go to make my retreat, I tend to stick to that format. 4 holy hours a day of prayer, and the rest of the day for rest, relaxation, walking, a little bit of reading. I try not to read too much because you can spend your whole retreat reading sometimes, and if you spend your whole retreat reading, then you could have just stayed at home, which is not bad, but you're also not necessarily doing that reflection that you need to be doing.
Right.
So generally that's my format. I'll try to, if I can, get a spiritual director that I'll meet with, if not every day, a couple days throughout that retreat, and just try to continually keep it prayerful.
And I've done a variety. I've mentioned, I think, before that Father Greg Thomas is a good friend of mine, even though we tease each other on these shows or whatever. He's the past. He was at Mosby Heart in Topeka. Now he's at Prince of Peace in Olathe, and often we have gone to retreats together. It helps me anyway to be consistent with my retreat, and we've gone to a variety of places. Sometimes they are organized with a big group, and sometimes they are just like 2 or 3 of us or whatever, and we've been all over. And so yeah, for me, I like doing a variety, and sometimes I want to do something with a group, and sometimes I just want to do a personal thing. And it also just matters about the calendar, because sometimes like an organized group priest retreat doesn't line up with both of our calendars or whatever. So.
Right.
And then when I go with Father Greg, it's nice. We try to do a couple of vacation days on one of the other ends or whatever.
Great,
so
yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a priest friend that I'll be going down to Clear Creek with, and so there will be 2 of us. But I plan not to talk to him much over the course of the week. So we're going to go down and no, I'm not saying that.
Right.
I'm just like that would be. So we're going together, but I plan to talk to him on the way there and the way back ish. So.
And that's pretty much the way it was with
Yeah.
Father Greg too, because usually they're like silent retreats that you're
Yeah.
not really talking. I mean, but it is nice just to kind of see a familiar face sometimes, and then
Yeah.
mention, we did have a funny moment. We were doing our holy hours in this retreat in Florida, and that's not organized like when you do your holy hours, but Father Greg and I seem to be like on our same schedule.
Really, that's funny.
And so like I broke the silence a little bit when I walked in, and then just like a couple minutes later he walked in like, okay, places everybody, because it was like we were on the same kind of route. So
That's funny. And so I've done many group retreats, and it is humorous how that occurs. I have one friend that almost always happens. I'm like, do we have the same like sleeping ritual, or
Right.
what is this?
Right. So I mean, yeah, is it in the spirit of, you're supposed to keep silence, but some of that, it's not so, for me at least, it's not so silent that it's just entirely weird, it's like...
Right, the purpose is not the silence. The silence is the means to the end.
Right, right.
And there are times that you have to like break open and be like, hey, can you pass the salt?
Exactly.
Like, okay, pass
Right.
the salt. No big deal. That's not going to totally ruin your retreat.
Right. So yeah, we've been several places. We've been to Florida, we've been to San Diego, we've been to Arizona, we've been to Austin. Some of those programs have been more organized. I went to the Spiritual Life Center and did just a personal retreat, and just met with the guy that was the director there each day. That was my retreat that year.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So, but this year I did not organize something with Father Greg because it's hard. I don't know where I'd go, so that's why I just did the personal one this year. So. Yeah. So that's that. All right. I don't know if there's anything else that people have, or no, Dina, it's not that book. It's not. They're not reading it right now. One of the teachers gave it to me at the end of the year last year and said, "I like it. This is a good summer reading book." And it's by Avi. It's The Adventures or something. She's on a ship of Charlotte.
I was very confused.
It's not
as to why
Charlotte
he was
Church.
reading
I know
it.
it's not that, but
I was very confused when we first started reading them. Like,
True Confessions of Charlotte. True
Web.
Confessions.
True Confessions of Charlotte's Web.
It's a book by Avi. You can Google it. But I don't remember what that is. But anyway, it's a book for a 5th grade reading level, and but it was good. It was entertaining. So,
all right. Well, thank you all very much.
Thus ends another episode of Church Chat. Theoretically, let me take a look at what we're doing next. Next Wednesday I've got a conflict because we got a funeral next Wednesday.
Yes, you do. Mm-hmm.
Can we do Thursday next week?
No, because I will be
you're
gone for a
gone.
wedding.
That's right. So there may not be a Church Chat next week. So sorry about that. We will stay tuned, but probably not because I do have that funeral next Wednesday. So I will doubt that there is one. We'll be back in 2 weeks, theoretically on the 28th.
Okay.
If we can't do something next week. So we'll let you know.
Sounds good. Thank you all very much.
All right, thank you.
God bless.
Let's see here. So we turn on this. Yes, True Confessions of Charlotte Doyle. Thank you very much. That's the one that was, and it was pretty good. All right, now we'll go back to the music. Back to the music.